Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It's Monday, June 28th, 2021, and we have an awful lot to talk about today, that is for sure. Got a lot of tabs open, a lot of things to go over with you, so let's don't beat around the bush, and let's get started, shall we? All right, looking at the National Hurricane Center homepage, a good starting point for everything related to the tropics. We have TD4 here knocking on the door of the low country down there in South Carolina and Georgia, and we'll look at this closer in just a moment. We have 95L still hanging around out here, waiting to maybe do something, maybe not, we'll see. And then it's not represented on the map just yet, but we're going to have some action coming off the coast of Africa that looks like it's going to try to develop over time, possibly. And then over in the, oh look, I just saw, hey, we have Tropical Storm Danny, breaking news. Right as I put this together. How about that? Depression strengthens to a tropical storm. Rarely does breaking news happen right when I'm getting ready to cut this video. But there it is. It's now Tropical Storm Danny in the Atlantic. Wait, let's see if their track map refreshes. I bet ours will in just a minute. I'll show you this guy in just a second. We'll refresh ours. Anyway, instead of restarting, we'll just let all this be part of the video. Kind of cool. Anyway, in the Pacific, we have Enrique, and it's not looking as healthy as it was earlier, which is good news. It definitely got a little bit closer to the coast down here than previously thought. The computer model's kind of struggling with where it was going to end up. It looked like it was going to be much farther off the coast, but instead it kind of clipped the area just near Puerto Vallarta, which is right in there. So we'll look at all of this stuff and more. So let's refresh our track map and see if we have pulled that data yet. I mean, it is literally, look at that. Bingo! There it is. All right. Tropical depression. You got to love it when our own system here is just on the money. I tell you, I love it. Good job, Will. Will Woodgate programmed our tracking map for us, a gentleman over in the UK. So yeah, depression is a tropical storm, 40-mile-per-hour wind. But as I'm going to show you, it's just in this one thunderstorm complex. Recon is out there checking things out, and this is not going to be a major problem for a wide area or anything like that. But locally, you could get some heavy rain, gusty winds, small craft out there, that kind of thing. Could see some inclement weather. It's certainly worth noting and worth being aware of and being respectful of it, so to speak. I mean, like I say, this is bigger than any of us. So even if it's just a weak tropical storm, quote unquote, it's still formidable enough to take notice of. Meanwhile, down here in the Pacific, here is Enrique, and it's forecast to move up into the Gulf of California here. And if it goes up any more to the east and stays over warmer water, its circulation will last a little longer, and maybe, just maybe, we can start to sneak some of that moisture up in here to the desert southwest, the Sonora area of northwest Mexico. We will keep an eye on all of that and more. All right, looking at the big picture of the tropical Atlantic and elsewhere, 95L right here, energy coming off of Africa over here that we need to watch. Tropical Storm Danny now coming ashore as we speak. As I put this together, it's happening, as they say. You see that on Twitter a lot. It's happening. Well, it's happening today. A lot of disturbed weather in the Gulf, but nothing organized. No areas of concentrated vorticity or anything like that. And then there's Enrique kind of suffering a bit because of its overall ragged appearance because of upwelling perhaps, the proximity to Mexico, just some other negatives. Well, cooler sea surface temperatures too. So let's look at everything one at a time. So here's Enrique off the coast of Mexico, Puerto Vallarta right in here. There is the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula. One burst of convection near the center. It looks like it has slowed down quite a bit. Some dry air getting worked in off the continent over here, and cooler water temperatures, all of that helping to deflate the overall structure, diminishing the deep convection. And without that deep convection, you should know by now, you can't have a solid, strong tropical cyclone. Convection is the engine that runs everything, or at least it's part of it. All right, so looking at the water, total precipitable water here from the University of Wisconsin site, another great tool to analyze what's what and where's where. Here's Danny now officially coming ashore in the low country, Here's 95L, nice and curled up there in the deep tropics. Just not enough latent heat out here. Just, the upper ocean heat content not quite there. And I've said it a lot lately, that's because of climatology. It's not supposed to be active this early, this far east. But make no mistake, that is a formidable piece of energy out there for this early in the season. Another area of energy coming off of Africa here, a little bit of a lower latitude, and we'll have to watch this one. And then right off of the Mexican coastline, there's the diminishing signature, as it were, for Enrique. All right, so looking at the vorticity signatures of our various players, we'll switch the color scheme over to white. There's 95L right there. There's Danny right there. There's Enrique. And nothing in the Gulf, as you can see. No concentrated areas there to speak of. Getting a text message. I'm sure all kinds of people are like, what's up? That's fine. It's not an emergency. It's all good, people. Nothing in the Gulf of Mexico worth noting. With all that convection out there, nothing coming together at the surface. And again, that's what this shows you. It's not quite the surface. It's 5,000 feet up. But it shows you the bottom part of the atmosphere here. And if you get a lot of energy coming together and bundling, that's what we look for here. And that's what that Tropical Storm Danny now off the coast of South Carolina and vicinity, Enrique over there. You get the idea. When it's all circular and bundled up, that's the fingerprint that we're looking for, and we don't see any of that happening in the Gulf of Mexico, nothing in the Caribbean right now. There's 95L, well, at least that part of it. And this is just a mid-latitude ocean storm, no big deal over cold water, so it's not going to develop tropical characteristics. All right, so here it is, officially Tropical Storm Danny. Why? What happened that changed all of a sudden? Well, it's getting close to land, so it's starting to feel some frictional impacts. And I tell you, I wish that I had loaded up this one animation. I might do it tomorrow because it is really a great way to show you why frictional effects with these low end systems can kind of help them ramp up at the last second. It's convergence. It's the piling up of air. That's what you need. Somehow you need that air to pile up and rise. You have to have convection. And that big blow up of thunderstorms right there at the last frame, right there, that's enough right underneath that to give you some tropical storm force winds. Recon, I'm assuming, found that down there. You have the weather radar coming out of National Weather Service Charleston. And so, yes, it's a tropical storm. Certainly a very well-defined circulation. But what happened? That's the key. As it's coming in there, it's all moving along, and the front side slows down just a little bit, and the back side's still coming. All that air is moving in, and it's like a big chain reaction pileup on the interstate. Instead of dragging out some horrible video of that happening, there's this great video I saw. I've got it in my camera roll. I just wasn't thinking about it to put it in here. But it's all these skiers it's bikers on a ski slope. See, I'm totally excited about this. It's bikers on a ski slope, and they're all heading down. It's like this crazy video. I don't know where it was from. Hundreds and hundreds of people on bikes on a ski slope. It's totally real. And the front line of the line, somebody falls, and it creates this big chain reaction and a big pileup. And it is a wonderful visual, as tragic as it was. Hopefully nobody was killed. It was certainly comical to see. But that's what's happening here. All that motion coming in, the front slows down just a little. The back still coming, if you will, all that mass, up you go. You get that convergence there and that blow up of thunderstorms. It's quite interesting to see. And if you're underneath it, in a boat out there, it could be problematic. So, take this seriously. Heavy rain underneath there. There's even a lot of lightning all of a sudden, as you can see. Sorry, trying to get the controls working here. So, yes, it's a tropical storm coming into the coast of South Carolina, and I can show you that on this awesome radar loop from Mark Nissenbaum down at Florida State University. You can really see, just this one little part right here. That's all it takes. One little area, one quadrant of the overall package here. You can have tropical storm conditions, and it's a tropical storm, no doubt about it. A few rain bands coming in all the way up here to the beaches of southeast North Carolina, where my wife and kids are out at the beach as I speak, and they were asking me to look at the radar, and it's nice and clear. Yippee. Not so much down here, though, in the low country of South Carolina and even Georgia. And this whole mess will come inland and bring some heavy rain to the Savannah River Valley, maybe as far inland as Augusta and points north and west of there, and then it'll slowly wind its way down as it goes inland over time. And I'll show you that in the modeling coming up. All right, so let's switch gears and look at some of the puzzle pieces that are shaping where we are now and where we are going for the rest of the season. Kind of a warm-up here in the tropical Pacific over the last couple of weeks, but nothing out of the ordinary. We are not headed towards an El Nino. In fact, I'm going to watch that this area starts to cool off again as we go through August and into September. There is some colder water anomalies lurking below the surface out this way that I think is going to do what we call upwell and start to erode any of these positive anomalies through here. And in the meantime, the tropical Atlantic has definitely warmed up. You have this sort of Atlantic El Nino, if you will, a Nino signature as it's called, the abnormal warming of the equatorial region of the Atlantic there in the Gulf of Guinea. Boy, look at the northwest Atlantic. Holy cow, that is really warm compared to the average. And that is going to help to foster major ridging in the peak of the season. It seems like since about 2016 or so, we've just rinsed and repeated this pattern over and over again. And we've had these very busy seasons with lots and lots of impacts to land areas. The United States, the islands, all the way up into Atlantic Canada, the Canadian Maritimes, Matthew 2016, and there's others. And this kind of pattern looks like it's just setting itself up again. And I'm going to show you some evidence of that to support that claim in just a moment. Meanwhile, in the Gulf of Mexico, actual sea surface temperatures, not departures from any average or anything like that. These are the actual temperatures. For the most part, 28, 29 Celsius all through here. So nice and toasty. A little bit warmer in the western Gulf than the eastern. And that fluctuates. We see these change from time to time. The Gulf is extremely vulnerable to wind shifts, storms coming through, whatever it is. But it's always warm enough, especially by August and September, for very intense hurricanes. We know that. All right, off the coast of the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Cold up here off of New England and the Gulf of Maine. Pass. Not getting in the water up there. Still cold, too cold for me in the Mid-Atlantic. Maybe parts of the Chesapeake. But once you get down here to the Pamlico Sound and the offshore waters, and even the shelf waters areas and the beaches of the Carolinas, 80 degrees or higher for the most part. I will note, though, and let me go back to the anomaly map, this area right here along the coast of the Carolinas down to northern Florida, right at the shelf water area, running just a little bit below the long-term average. And yet, we see that Danny here, old Danny boy, taking advantage, just going right over that cooler water area. Maybe it's still got a little ways to go before it gets there. It'll be interesting to see when it reaches that cooler pocket, does this burst of convection go away? That'll be something to watch on Twitter and elsewhere. See who's talking about it. Maybe I'll talk about it. Anyway, so that's the sea surface temperature pattern as we go forward. All right, so what's happening with Enrique in the Pacific? This is the 6-hour average precipitation rate. Just kind of shows you how much heavy rainfall is falling with this. A little change in what I usually show you, which is the 850 millibar chart. Move this into motion. You can see how it kind of winds its way down. But some of that moisture does try overall with the monsoon out here to kind of get involved, coming up off of the mountains here in northern Sonora and northwest Mexico. What is that, the Sierra Madre or something like that? Into the desert southwest. You can take every drop of rain you can get out there. And you folks in the Baja Peninsula, you will get some heavy rain out of this and some gusty winds, rough surf, that kind of thing, as you see it make its way up there over the next day or two. But it will be interesting if it happens to go east of the Baja all the way up into the Gulf of California here, especially if it went right down the middle between the goalposts. That could lead to more heavy rain in this area, Tucson and Phoenix. You never know. We'll be watching that, and I'll mention it on Twitter. I'll talk about it in my morning podcast as well, and then, of course, here on the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion. Now, let's switch over to the Atlantic and kind of set the stage here for what we're looking at. This is the entire North Atlantic Basin. Africa is over there on the right, North America and the U.S., Central America, etc. on the left, etc. And then you see the different players out there, these vorticity features. This is a large upper-level system down to the mid-levels of the atmosphere, not to worry about it at all. Later in the season, these things can be interesting and form and affect the Azores, but not right now. This is Danny. Earlier today, this was initialized at 12Z, and so this is slightly earlier. It's a little bit, 3:25 Eastern now, so it's almost right where we are time-wise. This is 95L, and this is energy that's going to try to come together off of Africa, and then you can see, of course, Enrique over here. We've already talked about that. So let's move this out frame by frame. Danny's on shore, goes inland there, and let me just point out 30 hours out, there's the remnants in Georgia. So yes, some heavy rain through here from time to time. Don't know if you necessarily need it, but you're getting it. That'll help the weeds grow and the grass stay green and all that stuff. The mosquitoes breed, whatever. Not much of a flash flood issue, but honestly, if you're traveling I-95, I-16, I-20, I-85, that kind of thing, take it easy. Seriously, you don't want your own pileup. Speaking of pileups, moving right along, 36 to 48 hours, there's the signature of 95L, and that will go through the islands here and bring them showers, thunderstorms, the potential for flash flooding in some of the higher terrain areas. You know the region if you live there. These tropical waves are not alien to you. Just be aware, it's coming. And then more energy trying to come together down here in the intertropical convergence zone that might try to develop down the road as well. So let's keep going. 60 hours to 72, 95L in the Southeast Caribbean. By 96, this system starts to get going southeast of Trinidad and Tobago, at least according to the GFS. There's 95L in there. And then that big old egg yolk, that's what it looks like. It's like a fried egg. Bermuda High kind of shoved far to the south again. I'm not used to seeing that horizontal axis so far to the south, and that squishes these systems to the south as well. Later in the year, this will migrate more to the north, and these will come across higher latitude and become an issue more for the southeast. But for now, you folks down here in the windwards need to watch this next feature. This is 4 days out. That's not forever. I'm not showing you something 10 days out or even a week. Speaking of that, 120 hours, and between 96 and 120, it gets going there. You see, kind of winds up a little bit. Might have a tropical storm. Could we be looking at the 5th named storm of the season, which is Elsa? Believe it or not, no, I don't make these up. Anna was I get it. It's the way it goes, folks. Anna and then Elsa. Yep. If you have kids, you get it. But yeah, this could be Elsa going through the Caribbean. We're way out near a week, but you folks down there, I know I got watchers, viewers, listeners, whatever, social media followers in the Trinidad, Tobago area, Grenada, the windwards as a whole, and the leewards. Watch this next one closely. At the very least, we could have a much more vigorous tropical wave, and sort of at worst here, the possibility of a tropical storm. It'll be interesting to see when the Hurricane Center picks up on that. So far, no mention in the tropical weather outlook. Let's compare it to the Euro. Here's the ECMWF, same time frame, same area of the atmosphere, 850 millibars. So we look at this. This is 24-hour increments. So there's Danny, again, 24 hours from now, over Georgia and the southeast there, bringing rain, as we talked about. 95L sitting in here somewhere, not really discernible, and that other energy pocket trying to come together there out in the deep tropics. 48 hours out. 95L approaching the islands, the other system trying to gather itself. What do we go next? 72, and then 96. Interesting that the GFS and the Euro not quite in agreement, but still a fairly decent reflection there of what would have presumably be 97L. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's what it would be. And then finally at 120, not much from the Euro at all. And I'm going to tell you something. And I've been kind of talking back and forth with a few people on Twitter about this. It's getting annoying with the waffling of the models here. I mean, seriously, if we're going to have development, let's go ahead and have it. And, the Euro a few days ago, I'm not going to forgive it for that ensemble that was just like throwing. Remember that game from the 80s, the arcade game, Missile Command? I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so I do. And it just had all these missiles coming down. It was like these MIRVs, as they're called, the multiple, whatever, I don't remember what MIRV stands for, but it looked like that. All those models coming across to the ensemble plots. You can see that on sites like Weather Nerds, and we all saw it. You see the 10, 15-day accumulated cyclone tracks from weathermodels.com, etc. And we were all like, okay, here it comes. It's annoying, isn't it? Because if there's going to be development, then let's get on with it. Let's deal with it. This on-again, off-again stuff, I've got no explanation other than it's just chaos, man. You just never know. But we're talking 5 days from now. You can tell I get kind of amped up about it. Hour 120. This isn't Mark showing you something out 300 hours and going, why doesn't it develop? It's like, dude, we're talking 5 days. And you remember the Euro last week? It was 48 hours, and it had genesis of 95L south of the Cabo Verde Islands. I don't know. I need one of those emojis. The guy that's like that, that's me right now. I don't know. I don't get it. So we'll watch and see. Either conditions are so favorable and the models are just like, okay, it's not supposed to be this favorable because climatology, or they're not that favorable and the models, I don't know. I'm telling you, sometimes it's okay in the world of weather to say, I don't know. But we do know we'll just watch it. Sometimes, as I say, open up the window, look outside and see what's going on. And maybe we'll just do that. All right. I should have like a slide for this. Like a little title card. What are other people talking about? And some music for it or whatever, a little stinger. What are other people talking about? I love Storm 2K and been a member of that message board for a long, long time. And their thread called 2021 Indicators, sea surface temperatures, and all kinds of other puzzle pieces, if you will. I thought this was really good here from the poster, the member there, the poster, the member, whatever you want to call them. Alpha to Omega is their name. And what were they saying? Well, they were posting the CANSIPS, that is the Canadian upward motion chart. And it's like the Canadian version of your climate model, if you will, just to try to simplify it for you. And what are we looking at? Well, hopefully you know your geography, that this is North America over here. There's Africa. This is a Mercator projection map. So everything's, stretched and flat. That's maybe where people think the Earth is flat. They've been seeing too many of these. Anyway, sorry, dad joke there for you. But seriously, this is North America, okay? This green is upward motion. This is sinking motion. What does this show? Well, if we scroll down and we interpret it, this is the CANSIPS forecast, as they make note of. But what does it mean? Well, let's scroll down. What did it look like in retrospect for 2020? Let's do this. Let's open it in a new tab and see if we can get it to... Nope, I'm not going to wait for it. This is what it looked like in hindsight. Sinking motion was over parts of the Western Hemisphere, rising motion over Africa, the Indian Ocean, and we had a very, very, very busy 2020 season. That's last year, right there. That's last year, okay? So we know what it looked like. That's the fingerprint. This is what it's forecasting for this year. In fact, more favorable over the Atlantic Basin, because you don't have all that sinking over here that we had last year. Very favorable over Africa and the Indian Ocean. Bottom line, this signature is one of a very active peak season to come. This is valid for September of this year. The CFS, which is the Climate Forecast System, the United States version, same kind of deal. Active rising motion over the Indian Ocean and Africa. Why does that matter? Because that rising air gives rise, literally, to the strong tropical waves that come out over the Atlantic. And when they get into the Atlantic, they encounter presumably favorable conditions, and we have problems. So once again, the climate models out into the future, these big signals still screaming a very active season ahead. And you can do this really neat sort of reanalysis over at the NCEP NCAR site. If you combine 2018 and 2020 and get a composite, Favorable, and this is what I was talking about earlier, over Africa, Indian Ocean, sinking motion for the most part. Of course, 2018 was busier. That's why that's showing up. Remember, we had Hurricane Lane, amongst other things, in the Pacific. But this is what I was showing you earlier about that pattern, repeating and rinsing and repeating. Here we go again. And so there's a bug in here. Once we get to the heart of the season, the models are saying that this is what we need to look for, and it's going to be active as we go forward, all right? And this is sort of the summary that they make here. The CANSIPS is suggesting a potential 2020 repeat. CFSV2 is suggesting sort of a combo 2018-2020. And should the CANSIPS play out, we may have a season with an ACE of 180 or higher, like last year. And if the CFSV2 pans out, it might be more of a 155 ACE season. That's that accumulated cyclone energy, the measure of how much energy is out there. But neither of these would put us over the hyperactive threshold of 210 unless we have a long track, big time hurricane. Those are the details that we don't know yet. But these are some glaring signals that you better have your ducks in a row anywhere in the western part of the Atlantic Basin where these things generally end up, because it looks like a very busy time ahead. Speaking of busy times, I hadn't talked about this in a while. This is a reflection of a busy time. That was 2019. I did a series, and I haven't been promoting it like I should. And it took a lot of effort, so you're darn right I'm going to promote it. It's free as well, crowdfunded through Patreon. It's on YouTube. It's a playlist, and it's called The Hurricane Highway. We've got 8 episodes from Season 1, starting with the first miles, as I call it, kind of a origin story, how I got into this, some of the people that influenced me along the way. And then we go and look at the 2019 hurricane season through each episode, actually the year as a whole, all the way up to the last episode here. I'll just click on it to kind of tease it, ending with Typhoon Tisoi over in the Western Pacific. Brent went out there. He's one of our supporters and one of our field crew members, and he ended up in the Western Pacific for that typhoon. Here's some shots from him. Typhoon Tisoi, November, late October, November, or is it early December? I think, yeah, it was the end of December. End of November to the end of December, 2019. And you remember what happened at the end of December, don't you? Yes, that was the last normal time period for all of us, because once we got to January 2020 and beyond, everything went to the toilet. And I smile, because what else are you going to do? That will be covered in Season 2. See, I'm trying to lead into this. Season 1 of the Hurricane Highway, 8 episodes. It's a playlist. It's available. You can watch it. No commercials, no ads at all, because it's supported through our Patreon supporters. Their names are in the credits. And there you go. I'm working on Season 2. I already have 2 episodes finished, and I'm working on episode 3 right now, and probably have 8 more after that. And my goodness, my hair is going to all fall out by the time I'm done with this. It's fun, but editing video and producing it. I even do my own music, in case you didn't know that. I literally compose it on synthesizers and edit everything together. It's a heck of a work and a chore, but at the end of the day, it's a good showcase about what we do, why we do it, and how the science is behind everything we do. And it's all crowdfunded, all right? So I wanted to mention that to you in case you weren't aware. The Hurricane Highway playlist there on YouTube. Just look for that playlist, Hurricane Highway Season 1. All right. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, of course. If you're on YouTube and you're new, consider subscribing to the channel. Make sure you click the notification button so you get notified when I post a video. And I'm telling you, you will really like that when we go live and cover events out in the field. And obviously this is Danny now, but you get the idea. Breaking news while we did the video. All right, I'm done. Let me get out of here and post this for you guys instead of keep yammering. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.